Okay, guys. This is the last day of my videos because I'll be back in class on Tuesday. But before we get started, I want to ask this very, very important question. Which is better, pie or cake? You all better be screaming cake. Pie is yucky. People put nuts in it. They put vegetables in it. They put meat in it. Things that ought not to be in it. Okay, pie is yucky. Cake is yummy. Okay. If you said pie, you get minus 5 points on something. I'm just kidding. Okay. Now that we have, now that we're all dying for a piece of cake or ice cream, let's do some math. Okay, we're going to talk some more about the distributive property. If you were in my 8th grade, if you were in my math class yesterday, we watched a video that Mrs. Packer made, and we talked about distributive property. Some of you might have had Mrs. Packer, and so you heard the same thing. You might have heard it from Mrs. Nielsen or Mrs. A. But I want to kind of talk about it some more and talk about what it means, what the distributive property actually means. Okay, so here's an example. So I'm using my mouse now instead of my finger, so hopefully it looks a little better. That looks terrible. Hang on. Okay, whoop. So the other day, we watched a video and we talked a little bit about the equal sign or equality. Okay? Remember, what the equal sign means is that whatever's on the left has to equal what's on the right. No exceptions. So whatever we do to something on the left, it always has to equal the same thing on the right. So let's look at an example. So in this example, I'm going to put some parentheses. No one make fun of my writing. There we go. Okay, I've got 2 times, inside parentheses, 1 plus 3, and that is equal to 8. Okay, if I were to add together what's inside the parentheses, I would get a number, and that number would be 4. Okay, remember our order of operations, we have to do what's inside the parentheses first, if we can. Okay, and we can here. So if I were to add 1 to 3, I would get 4, and if I multiplied that by 2, I would get 8. Okay? Another way to think about that is we have this thing called the distributive property, where if I have a number on the outside of the parentheses being multiplied by something on the inside, and right up here, if I do not have a exponent, then I can do something called the distributive property. And what that is this. I take this number, let me get a different color. I take this number out here, and I can multiply it by everything on the inside. So if I do that, I've got 2. It's being multiplied by 1. And I'm adding that to 2. And that's being multiplied by 3. Okay? Now, remember, we have our rule of equality. So whatever we did on the left has to still equal what we did on the right. Let's see if what we have here still equals 8. 2 times 1 is 2. And I add that to 2 times 3, which is 6. Is 2 plus 6 equal to 8? Whose phone was that? Just kidding, it's mine. Okay, so that means that 2 plus 6 must equal 8. And does it? Sure does. So that means what we've done when we distributed, we didn't break any rules, okay? And we get 2 plus 6, and that's equal to 8. Okay, so that's kind of how the distributive property works. Now, what if we look at, we have our numbers right here, 1 and 3. What if we don't know one of those numbers? Okay? What if we don't know what one of those numbers are? So let's say we have 2, and that's being multiplied by In math, when we don't know a number, but we know it is a number, we'll use something called a variable to represent it. And that's being added to 3 inside the parentheses. And we set that equal to 8. Okay? All right, so now our goal is to figure out what x is. Now, if you look at this and you go, oh, well, if I look inside the parentheses and I go, okay, what plus 3 times 2 equals 8? Well, I know 4 times 2 is equal to 8, so x must be 1. That's great, and that's great deductive reasoning, but I want you to be able to show me using algebra how you got there. Because later on, because the things we're learning now, we're going to build on. And later on, you might not be able to use your deductive reasoning to tell me what x is. Okay, it might be a more complex equation. So, let's show using algebra, if we think x is equal to 1, let's show using algebra that x is actually equal to 1. So to do that, I'm going to use the distributive property, and I'm going to do exactly what I did up here. So I'm going to do 2 multiplied by x, and 2 multiplied by 3. Okay, what color have I not used? Let's use orange. Is that how you guys pronounce it? Orange? Or do you say orange? Okay. So I have 2 being multiplied by the x. So I've got 2 times x. I'm going to add that. 2 times 3. And we're going to set that equal to 8, or 8. Okay? Alright. Now, what's 2 times x? That's just 2x. Okay, and that's being added to. Do I know what 2 times 3 is? I sure do. It's 6. Excuse me. And we're adding that to 8. Now remember, I want to figure out what x is. So now, last time we were in class, we were solving multi-step equations. Okay, I want to get this x right here. As my voice squeaks, all by itself. So how do we do that? I'm going to use pink now. So to get the x by itself, I got to do something with this 6 first. Okay? I want to move it over to this side. Alright, and 6 is being added. So remember, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So if it's being added, the opposite of addition is subtraction. So I want to subtract a number from 6 so that it's equal to 0. What number would that be? Well, it's 6. If I subtract 6 from 6, I get 0. And then whatever I do to the left, I have to do to the right. So 6 minus 6 is just 0. So I'm left with 2x on the left. Now on the right, I've got 8 and I'm subtracting 6. 8 minus 6 is equal to 2. Okay, I'm still not quite done. I want to get this x all by itself. I'm running out of colors. Okay, so to do that, 2 is being multiplied by x, and I want to undo that. What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So I want to divide something by, I want to divide this 2x by something so that the 2 reduces to a 1. 2 divided by what number is equal to 1? All right, divide it by itself, you get 1. And then whenever I do to one side, I've got to do to the other. That's a 2, not a fancy a. Okay? So if I divide both sides by 2, I get 1. I'll write it over here. So I get x on the left. And then if I, on the right, 2 divided by 2 is also equal to 1. So I get x is equal to 1. So that's how we can show what this x was equal to. Man, my voice is squeaking. I think COVID's like reverse puberty or something. Anyways, that's how we figure out what our x is equal to, okay? So I'm going to put an example up here on the board, and I want you guys to try it in your notes. Okay, let me clear this all off. Alright, I'm just going to change my color here. Okay, so the one I want you guys to try, I've got 3, and it's being multiplied by, in parentheses, 2 minus x I'm going to set that equal to 12. Okay, so if we can pause the video for a second, I want you guys to try this and figure out what x is. Okay, after you guys have had a second to try this, let's see if we got the same answer. So remember, if I've got a number on the outside of parentheses, okay, and I do not have a variable or an exponent up here on the outside of the parentheses, if there's nothing there, then I can distribute. Okay, I can multiply whatever's on the outside by everything on the inside. When I do that, multiply the 3 by the 2, I get 6. And I do 3 times negative x. That gives me negative 3x. And that's equal to 12. Okay, now I want to get this x by itself. I want to get this term all by itself because I want to figure out what x is. So to do that, I got to get rid of this homie right here. I want to move him to this side. Okay, and I got a positive 6. So what number, if I add to positive 6, gives me 0? Well, if I add a negative 6 to it, or if I subtract 6 from both sides, those reduce to 0. So I'm left with, holy cow, hang on. So I'm left with negative 3x. How come everyone says holy cow? Are cows holy? Something to think about. Anyways. Then I've got 12 minus 6, which is 6. Okay? Alright, now I want to get this variable all by itself, and it's being multiplied by negative 3. So I want to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I want to divide negative 3x by something so that the negative 3 reduces to 1. What if I divide a number by negative 3, or what number divided by negative 3 gives me 1? Well, that'd just be itself. Okay? So if I divide, oh my. So if I divide both sides by negative 3, I get x is equal to 6 divided by negative 3. It's negative, oh my goodness, negative 2. Remember, a positive number divided by a negative number is a negative number. Okay? So I just use algebra to prove that x in this equation here is equal to negative 2. Okay? Okay, here's another really, really important question. Would you rather vacation on the beach or in the mountains? Beach is nice and all, but you get sand everywhere, and there's always lots of people on the beach. And I don't like being around lots of people. So I think the mountains are by far the better place to be. Usually if you're in the mountains, you're secluded, you're away from people, it's quiet. So a lot of times beaches are also kind of dirty. Usually if there's a beach, there's a lot of tourism. Anyways, I like the mountains. If I was there, I'd assume that a lot of you guys would say that the beach is better. But I think your opinion's wrong. I'm just kidding. Okay, back to math. Okay, we're going to do another example. This one is going to make you think. So I've got, look how neat that looks. And that is equal to 12. Okay, so I want to figure out what y is. Okay, you guys are probably thinking, wait, Laurel, there's no number in front of the parentheses. Think real quick. Is there a number in front of the parentheses? I know I've got this thing right here. Right? Got a negative sign. So if I've got a negative sign, what number must be in front of the parentheses? There must be a 1 right there, okay? So what I got to do is I got to distribute. Because I've got a negative 1 being multiplied. There's parentheses. It's being multiplied by everything inside the parentheses. and there is no exponent up here, or at least one that's written. Okay, so that means I'm going to multiply this -1 by everything that's on the inside of the parentheses. So when I do that, I've got -1 times 4y. What does that give me? Oh, it gives me, it's supposed to be a 4, -4y. -1 times a -1. Well, that gives me +1. I'm going to set that equal to dose, or 12. Okay? Okay, so now I want to get the term that has the variable attached to it all by itself. So I want to do something with this +1. So I want 1 is being added to both sides because it's positive. So I want to subtract a number or add a certain negative number to both sides so that that 1 cancels out. Okay, that number would be -1. So if I add a -1, or I could say I'm subtracting 1 from both sides, if I do that, these cancel out. So I'm left with -4, come on, -4y, and that's equal to, oh, I wrote the wrong number. Hang on. Nobody scream. Everybody stay calm. That's the wrong number. My dyslexia is kicking in. Okay, 13. That's supposed to be 13. I hope you can forgive me. Okay, so if I subtract 1 from both sides, or I add -1 to both sides, if I add a -1 or I subtract 1 from 13, I get 12. Okay, now I want to get the y all by itself. Okay, and the y is being multiplied by -4. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I got to divide by something. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So, what number, if it's divided by 4, or if I divide it, okay. What number, if -4 is divided by it, reduces it to 1? Well, that's just going to be, I don't know if I could write, itself. So -4. Okay? So, -4 divided by -4 just gives me 1. So I'm left with y. And on the right, remember these negatives cancel out. These negatives right here cancel out. Okay, 12 divided by -4. So I'm dividing a positive number by a negative number. So I'm going to get a negative number. 12 divided by -4 is -3. Okay, so don't let that negative sign up here scare you. Remember, if we don't have a number written there, we have a 1. Okay? You'll probably see a problem like this later on. There's one in your book. Okay, if you have any questions, please email me. Even though I'm not physically there, I'm here to help. I will be there on Tuesday, though, okay? I'm excited to see everybody. Be nice to the sub. Make sure you wash your hands. Don't do anything I wouldn't. Bye.